Session 1 Introductions. Alright, well, welcome everybody to the city of Reyvadin. As I am sharing it right now, it is a fairly large, walled-in city. It is in the southern Caladrian Empire, in the city of Reyvadin, at the end of what is known as the Kala Spine, which is a very large river that runs through all of Calandria. And at its very end of its eastern side is Reyvadin, which supplies all of the materials coming east into carts going west, and then from the carts coming east onto ships going west throughout the city. It's a very, very important city in it, specifically not just for it being a trade city and a port city effectively, but because of a few different parts that are inside it, specifically the Academy of Dusk, which many of our party is in some way connected to. That being a large magical academy that brings in a lot of attention. There's also a very large library known as the Azure Sky Libraries that is very well connected, and there's one in nearly every major city of this continent. Outside, it is a bright, sunny day. The city as a whole, Reyvadin, that is sitting on just a grassy plain. It is, like Kansas, flat as you can see for a little while, except for the one very, very large mountain, literally known as the Long Mount, probably a day and a half's journey away, that is visible just due to how large it is.
TBH, same.
To BH, same. So, we begin with the daily newspaper. With a few... It's known as the Sun's Daily. Reyvadin is very much based around radiance and sun, as Star Watchers were those who established this city, along with some of its, effectively patron saints being those related to stars or the sky. Either way, so as we are reading the daily transcript, we see on the front page just the blockbuster hit of this daily news. In today's news, the refugees of Dairn have finally been established in the cities of Rivacheg and Team. All 270,000 have been moved into temporary housing, as we are still gathering information on the discussion of a new island in creation south of Volusia. What a wild time to live, am I right? In more local news, as the relations between the Caladrian and Khatanit empires are strained, it becomes more and more likely to see unrest peak here in the next few months. And as we're reading down this list, we move on to even more local topics, talking about the city and some cobbler who recently had been caught for some kind of thieving from the Azure Sky Libraries. We pan up straight from the magazine, and we see a dark elf? No, it's an elf, for sure. It's much darker features. Thomas, would you like to introduce your character?
Yes. What you see is a tall, well-built for an elf. Definitely not as skinny as much of your other elves. Man with silver white hair, and some stubble on his face, a light beard growing, which is also odd for an elf. He has some scars on his face, and he wears a well-fit leather armored uniform, very typical of those who have served in the military. He has a green cloak that comes over a little bit, and at his thigh you see a holstered revolver. And yeah, so that is. Do I have to do more?
No. I was about to take over. So
Cool.
yeah, as we pan out, we see this almost like a navy blue gray skin, ears not quite as sharp as an elf, but still sharper than that of a human's, far sharper. And panning out from him, from the magazine, we look straight out the window, and we are way up in the sky. We are in one of the 10 towers of the Academy of Dusk. Specifically, the Tower of Transmutation, where the Professor Likus Eranan effectively teaches all his classes and lives. And as we pull back in, a series of children run by, because he's closer to the base of this tower. Even at the base, it's very high up. A series of children run by, some halflings, dwarfs, and humans all playing together as a professor seems to try to, like, wrangle them up. He's seemingly casting spells at these kids, and they're, like, counterspelling and casting spells back at him. One of them turns the other straight up into a rat and, like, shoves the other kid into his pocket and just keeps running. The teacher, like, completely terrified at this point, attempts to cast another spell, which also gets countered. And then one of the Academy guards, known as a Seraphate, steps over, and his ring of anti-magic clothes are ripped as the rat turns into a child again. All of these, like, polymorphs and transmutation spells that these kids have been casting on themselves as they're playing just disappear as him and the teacher, like, wrangle all these kids back into a class. And as that happens, another younger person, probably mid-teen, steps over and says, Rikus, this is a young human man. You know him as Harry. He is effectively the teacher's assistant for Likus. And he steps over. Rikus, I believe Mr. Eranan is ready for you. He has some guests as well. They are expecting you.
What's his last name?
Shadow. Shade Hallow.
Yeah. Or Anadeus. Either one works.
Anadeus is the elvish word for it, but Shade Hallow is the common.
Yeah, and if you guys hover over your cameras, everyone's names have been changed to their characters' names. Spelled correctly and all. So, you have that.
What's Harry's last name?
Harry's? Fuck you, Nate. Harry Harrington. Sure, we'll go with Harry Harrington. So as Harry leads you up this spiral staircase that just seems to go, you're walking for like 2 or 3 minutes. You have to rest and catch your breath for a second. As you keep going up, Harry presses open this set of double doors, and as you open in, there are 3 figures inside. You recognize one of them. You don't the other. Specifically, you recognize another human man, the Archmage Entrati, Stolius Entrati, who you've worked with very, very minimally before. He's mostly just given you pointers and sent you out on missions. But he is sitting there, along with another half-orc mage that you seem to remember seeing around the school once or twice before, but you can't quite pinpoint what his name is. As you step in, Harry kind of closes the doors behind you, and Likus looks up and kind of greets you with a nod and beckons you to come over as they're standing around a table with kind of a map of the general area around them.
Gentlemen.
Rikus, it's good to see you again. Have your few days of rest been well?
Not long enough.
Yes, we wanted to give you a few days, but this really is quite a pressing matter. I hope you have a response for us.
I do, actually. I don't have any reason to leave at this point. Besides, there are too many questions to be answered, so...
Yes,
what updates do you have?
Very few. There has been another attack, another kidnapping and death. Only one. we'll give you the details once things are all settled, and, well, we don't really have many of the details. You'll have to speak with more local authorities. Stolius kind of butts in and takes over. Yeah, you'll have to speak with the people there. They only want to talk to you. I don't know why, but the couple days you spent down there, you seem to build some kind of reputation. They don't like us magic folk, apparently. We have a list, and for someone for you to go grab. Sometime this afternoon would be preferred. Back in the tower, our good friend, he points to Likus, who seems a little annoyed that Stolius kind of butt in on him. A little dinner dash, right? And Likus kind of rolls his eyes. Yes, I will be having some food prepared here for everyone to come in and get a full briefing. Mostly information that you would already know, but bringing everyone else in on things. Would you mind going and picking one of them up? He may be a name you've heard of once or twice before, but I don't believe you've met him before. And he kind of slides over a little dossier on someone.
Well, nothing like a housewarming party after a slaughter, am I right? So, and he catches his breath for a second. This new team, just run me down the list real quick.
Well, we have a couple people who were intended to be spoken to. However, they have either left town or denied us, well, talking to them. Overall, we have 4 others outside of yourself. An old friend of yours, a little closer to home. You may call him family. You haven't seen him for a little while. I know you've kept some tabs on him, but he is in town, and we intend on reaching an olive branch out to him.
Rikus kind of shoots his eye up from as he's reading the dossier he was handed, and then promptly goes back to reading the dossier.
So, him, the man you will be going to meet, his name is Leopold Lennoxton. Small noble family from Zadash, adventurer now, has some money, somewhat...
Yes, and he lives all alone in a mansion, I know.
Yes. Another one, a local practitioner and somewhat of a cult leader? Not truly, but a little bit. I don't know how much you know about Kelemvor. He is a deity that is permitted worship here, but he does not have a church. The leader of that movement, a man named Wayne Rex, will be added to the list. Some magical capabilities. And then lastly, someone a little closer to home of the Academy, mostly as a researcher, but has some martial skill. Linen Weave. I do not believe you've met him yet.
He nods his head. Well, that's an interesting bunch to replace, am I right?
Yes, your previous crew was just as eccentric, if not more so than this one. But I do believe this group will actually be a little bit more capable.
He, kind of glares at him for a moment, and...
Outside of Edmund, the rest were fairly inexperienced in adventuring. We've actively tried to seek out those outside of Linen that have a fair bit of martial experience.
I'm assuming you have no other leads on Edmund.
Not as of yet.
Well, I probably would have found out if you could.
You will have all the resources at your disposal at this evening and past then. The half-orc off to the side, who's seemingly been very quiet up to this point, kind of speaks up. I understand your discomfort in not being informed as an investigator of your caliber, Rikus. But there are other investigators coming in fact, 2 of which who are also fairly renowned in the city, or at least known of. you guys will work well together, and hopefully be able to solve this fairly quickly. New evidence has been found. Sargoth is only but a day's boat ride away, so you will be there fairly quickly. Come sundown tomorrow, you shall have most of the information at hand.
He just slaps closed the dossier, says, well, I hope they like what you're cooking. And turns around and says, see you all at dinner. And walks out the door.
As you're walking out, what's your passive perception?
17, I believe.
17. So as you're walking out, Stolius also seems to nod adieu, and then, seemingly with a dossier of his own in his hands, steps out the window and just begins flying out into the city.
Fucking lizards.
So, as we follow down the spiral staircase, going all the way back down to the bottom, and then farther, as Rikus is making his way out, the camera kind of pans off to the right and then down a set of stairs. As we see a well-dressed young man who is human, maybe has some elven descent in him, his ears are slightly pointed, but definitely mostly human, step over, well-dressed in the robes of the Azure Sky Library, as he is walking down a set of stairs with 3, thick bound books. And as he walks down these stairs, he kind of opens a door. And as we pan straight past this, 1 second, snaking through the tunnels, opening the door, the walls are just filled with whiteboards and bookshelves. This is an absolute clustercluck of intellectual work, academic work. And at the center, at this large table with papers all spread out, we see what appears to be an air genasi, and a young child, also human with those slightly pointed ears. But focusing in on the air genasi, Zach, would you like to describe your character real quick?
Yeah, so similar to the man walking in, he's dressed similarly in the robes of the Azure Library, but it's a bit modified to be more to be able to move a bit more freely than you would have expected of a mage of some sort. Air Genasi looks like the stereotypical studious type, disheveled hair, the glasses hanging off of some odd pocket. You'll notice a maester chain wrapped, somewhat slung across his, shoulder as he's using it to hold some piece of cloth in place. But other than that, he's just totally enveloped in in this conversation with this young man, just out trying to reiterate a point and pound some form of information that he swears is vital to magic.
So as our POV steps down into this, he kind of closes the door calmly without the table seeming to notice him stepping in yet, until he gets much closer, in which the younger, seemingly preteen, probably 11 or 12, kind of looks back, just rugged, dirty blonde hair, bright, vibrant blue eyes, looks over and sees his brother, who has come down with some books, and just screams out, "Ernest, it's good, so good to see you," and runs and hugs him. Ernest almost drops the books, but carefully sets them down on the table, and then hugs his younger brother. There's also on the table some symbols and words specifically pertaining to some noble families, and that our good friend Lennon had been teaching little Polkar. Polkar says, "Brother, I've been learning some crazy stuff today. Have you ever heard of the quadratic formula?" Ernest says, No, I have not. And as Polkar is about to start talking about it, he says, and to be perfectly honest, I do not believe that necessary for my line of work. Polkar kind of slugs his shoulders. I mean, I also learned a little bit about the family that rules Zadash and some of the other families there. And he kind of tilts his head. Interesting. Which ones did you learn about? And he kind of looks up. I mean, specifically about the Vincents, the liege lords of Zadash. They're half-elves. Their banner is a brown wheel with yellow elvish symbols that mean light, life, and liberty on a red field, with their words being the same. Light, life, and liberty. And he says...
Love.
What'd you say?
Live, laugh, love.
Not exactly.
Live, laugh, liberty.
Light, life, liberty.
Alright, that's it. We have to murder them. We can't have any live, laugh, loves in here.
Yeah. There also seems to be another few of them, specifically one that seems interesting, that being a tower with a large tree sprouting out from it with the words, there is no price great enough for honor. And as Ernest kind of looks up, I'm happy you're at least teaching him some of the important aspects of being a noble.
Lord Velkington, if I may.
I am not a lord, yet I am Ernest.
Sorry. It's just, yeah, I come from you know me. I come from out west.
I
I'm not too well versed. But, sir, if I may, there's so much to learn outside the accepted curriculum that hasn't been explored yet, and just like my it's just my subject to study. Your younger brother could be on the verge of greatness in the magical field and explore something. He'll just keep fumbling over his words, just like
Linen, it is all right. I understand, and me and my father both appreciate how well you are trying to educate my younger brother. However, he kind of looks down. Polkar, you should begin limiting your time. Well, that will happen naturally. And Polkar kind of looks up with him, kind of almost sadness in his eyes, and he says, "Oh, it's time for that discussion?" And Ernest says, "Unfortunately, yes. Polkar, if you would go back to your dormitories, maybe you have some friends who you would like to teach the, quadratic formula to?" Polkar kind of nods, and begins leaving. He kind of does a short courtesy to his teacher as he leaves, and then steps out and starts going up the stairs.
As he's leaving, Lennon will shout over, "Polkar, note that the quadratic formula may be the key to the theory of unlocking magical flux in the field of evocation. Promise me that you'll look
He is
into
already far up the stairs by the time you start talking. Ernest kind of closes the door behind him and turns over. "Well, Linen, have you been enjoying your basement tutorings over the past few months?"
It's been something, let me tell you. I never imagined tutoring to begin with. There's been good times and there's been successes, there's been failures, but overall it's a learning experience and makes me appreciate my professors a bit more.
I am sure it does. Well, I am still younger than you. I can say, having reached higher capabilities with the Azure Sky Libraries, it is quite interesting to now being teaching some of the younger children. It certainly provides a new perspective on things. However, that is sadly not what I am here to discuss.
Of course.
My father, and me in some regards, while we greatly appreciate your time with Polkar and would like it to continue in possibly more sporadic occasions, not as consistent. We believe he needs to be moving on to some other topics. And we also would not like to leave you in the basement of the Azure Sky, of this Academy of Dusk. So a friend of ours, and a friend of yours, Likus Eranan, has proposed bringing you into one of his new outfits.
Oh, is this a new research group? Maybe for field study, perhaps?
It's yes, in its own right. I'm sure you have heard, in some regards, of some of the umbral creatures that have been wading into this world over the last 3 months.
Oh,
Likus
yes.
has been slowly putting together a crew that he has decided to call the Inexorables. Terrible name, if you ask me. I had some proposals. He did not agree. Regardless, it would be field studies, investigation, tracking, your researching skills, which is partially why I'm here, as a, let's call it initial test. I know how much you like those. Into possibly joining. And he is going to, out of his cloak, pull out another dossier that has some slight descriptions and a couple, like, pictures, or more like arcane projections of certain things.
Yeah.
And he's going to slide them over and say, recently, down in Sargoth, the city just south along the spine by the coast, there have been a small string, but still a string of murders. We sent a crew down earlier this week, and most of them died, only one of them being able to return. Whatever this is, it seems far more capable than we originally believed. And you see, as these papers are laid out, they detail, like, a crime scene. This being the first crime that they have all the information on. With 3 bodies, one of a city guard, one of a woman, and her teenage son. The scene actually contained 2 city guards, but one of whom was taken or disappeared after this occasion.
What are the injuries looking like? Are they magical, physical?
It is actually kind of sporadic. There is some, like, wounds that would show like an arrow had gone into. Others that are more like dagger piercing and cut marks. But then there are just straight claw marks as well that seem to almost like sear the skin. But as we look deeper into this, more importantly, you notice the bodies are deflated. There is no blood in them. There are slight incisions just underneath their sternum where it appears that their lungs were taken out. And then specifically a symbol that rises up as its arcane projection, floating, that was found on the neck of each of the victims, on the back of their neck, is this strange symbol you would peg as celestial in nature. But you are uncertain as of now.
Okay.
So as Ernest puts those over, and as that symbol pops up, he says, yes, even our resident angel of our new crew was unable to decipher what that symbol means. He hands you 3 books. One, which is seemingly a text on ancient celestial. One that is on greater demons, and another one that appears to be some form of historical / story. It's like a Silmarillion of angels and demons and fights that have occurred in the past. Most of them are considered ludicrous and stories, not actual occurrences. But this trio of books, and says, I know you have plenty of books of your own on these subjects, but these were the ones from the Azure Sky's very own picks, and we would like to get your assistance on this. I am going to be entirely honest, Linen. We have no clue what that symbol means. So, at 6 p.m. this evening, up in the tower of Likus Eranan, we will be having a little bit of a meal where you will meet the rest of the crew that you will be joining. That is, if you choose to. Whether you choose to join or not, we would appreciate if you researched this and brought the information you are able to find to that meal. You know, it's a free meal.
Of course, may I also keep these these pictures you brought along with you. The injuries look quite interesting. I think we can. And he'll start mumbling. It's like we could probably do if we could somehow replicate this. We probably could make certain.
I will leave you to it, Linen. It is a quarter. It is a quarter. It is 9:15 right now, so you have a fairly significant amount of time. I know you read quickly, but I would encourage you to continue to do so, since that is 1,200 pages. 6 p.m.
Easy.
in Likus Eranan's tower, the Tower of Transmutation.
Of course. I'll be there. I'll get what I can ready, and just
Kind of like someone from the coast trying to avoid the Midwestern goodbye. He kind of waves and... yes, Lynn,
is
yes.
this a formal dinner, or just...
You
just
can wear what you are
short as
wearing.
is?
Yes, as is. I hope to see you this evening. And
Of course, I'll bring my fine. I'll do my best.
and he opens the door and closes it really quick behind him and lets out a massive sigh, just...
What a nice young man.
Okay, real quick.
That's funny. That's good.
Okay, 1 second. We have someone who is trying to spectate.
No.
Ooh.
I'm a
Lust
Jack.
for
I will have you know
revenge.
that because this is an online game, I will just be randomly sending gifs of the things going on.
Oh my gosh.
Because it also just helps me remember what happened during the session.
Okay. So,
Zach, you in the little bit of exposition you gave, you said that there was a group of people whose slogan was life, light, and liberty. Light, life, and liberty. Who was that group?
that was the liege lords of Zadash, the Vintseem.
How do you spell Vincim?
Vintsim.
Thanks.
Okay.
Also, did I hear that right? The Celestials, I would peg a Celestial, or did I mishear that?
He says peg a lot instead of I would place you as, or I would say that you are. He says peg, which is
Okay, I
also knew
heard
that, to be
peg,
fair.
I heard peg, and that's why I laughed, because I'm
You
like,
mean
wait a
pin.
second.
Zach. You
Okay,
mean the
okay.
word pin, just to be clear.
Peg works!
Pin.
It is a word that works!
It does work, it's just the internet has ruined the word for me.
Yes, it has.
Honestly, keep saying it. We'll just keep laughing at you. It's great.
Yes. Okay, so we have Jack in here now. He is going to stay muted and no camera on. He is just a spectator. Hi, Jack. You can type shit in chat, and I'm sure someone will make fun of you as this session goes on.
Always.
Because he is not in the channel where you're posting all the GIFs. Okay, so as we follow back up the stairs into the Academy of Dusk, shooting straight into the sky, way across the city, all the way across Haltuk's corridor, we fall in front of a tavern. And I am going to wait for Jade to stop talking, as this is his character. He's probably talking to his roommate right now.
At least I'm not the only one.
Quickly, give him some top text, bottom text.
No.
What he be saying?
Jade! Jade! Jade!
Hi.
Hi,
Sorry.
you're up.
Oh, okay, my bad. Hi.
I cannot do that right now, Thomas. We will do that when we get there. And you would not know any of that information yet. So, as we pan into this front, which we see kind of like a duck-like creature. Actually, no, it's a quail. It's a quail. Where we see the sign now dangling that says "The Quaint Quail" in front of this tavern. As we peer into and open the doors of the tavern, we get all the wonderful scents coming from the back of the tavern. Everything from the good to the really bad. The smell that wafts from the kitchen, you get the stench of old cabbage and slightly rotten meat. You can pick out some of the better smells, though, like a perfect roast mutton, baked bread, apple pie, and a sweet scent of a new batch of mead.
And that salty smell.
Along with that, there's the slight smells of salt and blood, as a pair of people, seemingly like an orc and a dwarf, are getting into some form of altercation at the bar as they had some form of disagreement. And the dwarf kind of swings out, but his arms are pretty short and stubby, and the orc kind of holds him at range. As they're just starting a fist fight, one of them goes to draw their blade. The bartender, who is like this big Goliath man, growls out, "No! No weapons! You can only use fists in here!" And he kind of resigns himself. The dwarf who's about to pull a blade resigns himself to probably losing the fist fight. And as we're doing that, we see a very tall man, probably pushing about 8 feet tall, very bright, almost radiant, light gray skin, dark eyes, almost like a purple, step in. And as he does, the two people who are fighting both seem to look over as the door is slammed open and quickly forget their differences as this person is just glaring down at them. And as they kind of separate and seemingly go their own ways to lick their wounds, this new person entering the Quaint Quail kind of peers around and notices a singular person sitting in the corner with a little kind of like portable oven, seemingly powered by something, magic or something, heating a bowl of something as he seems to be like pouring it into jars and closing it. Beside him sits the same newspaper of the day, of the Sun's Daily, but we see the other side. We see the job listings and the looking for adventurers postings that are on the other side of the front page. And as this man kind of peers over to this cloaked figure just pouring this deep red liquid into jars, Jade, would you like to do a brief description of your character?
Sure. The thing about Sakir is, even though he has a lot going on, the first thing you notice is his hands. It's almost like you're drawn to them. Is them heavily wrapped, but you can still see just small splotches of blood here and there. He might have a disease, you're not sure, but his hands seem all healthy otherwise. Going on from there, he's heavily cloaked with all kinds of tools. If he only had one set of something, you would call him a minimalist, but it seems like he is a minimalist in all things. He has he's a small flute hanging off of one side of his belt and a knife on the other. He has alchemist supplies all around him at this point, as he is very warily dumping some red concoction into this pot. He's sweating profusely. It isn't from the fire, though. It seems like he just did some intense exercise, some feat of strength that has exhausted him for the day. And as he's going on with the rest of it, it seems like this is what he is calling his break, as he is now researching jobs. Yes, jobs in the area. You see that a lot of it is ripped out. Specifically, the front page, the very front page that Zach described at the beginning, is ripped in two and flipped over, and you see a list of job listing specifically bounties on nearby goblins who have been raiding the city. Yes, what he is making does not smell good. but he's very focused on it, despite his very relaxed stature. Last thing is that he's completely shaven bald. He also has a very dark complexion. Not sunken eyes, but definitely darkened. Paler skin, all colors muted except his eyes, which do have a faint red tinge. You'd call him a monk, but he has no discipline whatsoever, so you think that it would offend somebody, at least. His armor has a slight smoke to it, a very niche and yet common thing for soldiers to wear if they're wanting to have a darker look to them. So you know this man is embracing whatever heritage and roots that he has in wearing that. The knife on his belt also resembles that, being very glittered and glowing despite its all the dark stones inlaid in it. And yes, as that man walks up, he seems like the kind of person who, in normal cases, would barely pay attention to anyone else doing anything around him, very absent-minded. But this person deserves some kind of nod of respect for his presence and authority as he has entered this room. After pouring what he's just added to whatever concoction that he has on the table, he sets it down and looks up at the arriving man.
The very, very large man, chiseled jaw, like probably less than 5% body fat, like just the most swole person that you'll ever see, with the brightest blonde hair. And you notice now that beneath his cloak there's a little flutter and shake as there are wings underneath his cloak. And he calls to the bartender for some meat and mead to be brought over to the table, as he kind of sits down and throws this small binder that has probably like 3 or 4 pieces of paper inside of it, and kind of he shoves it to the side. As he does, you notice this green like snake creature with 2 small arms just rapidly crawl from underneath his cloak and come in front and then back under his cloak, and he kind of looks down. Well, I guess he doesn't want to come play yet. Hello, dear friend. My name is Pax Aulomus. He reaches a just massive hand out to shake to you. I already know your name.
And he hesitates a moment, then brings his own hand up. Well, you already know it.
He shakes you.
Nice to meet you, Asimir.
I am not actually an Asimir, but we can get into that later. I'm here to speak to you about a prospect. I apologize, I haven't done much recruiting in my time, mostly smiting. As that happens...
He nods a little bit, and then starts continuing to work on whatever he's been doing.
As the snake kind of crawls out and almost wraps and, like, gets caught around his neck for a second, he, like, pulls it loose, and he grabs it, and as the maid kind of comes over with a plate of meat and some mead, he takes a big swig and then just sets the snake creature on the table and says, Sophocles, behave. Eat the meat, not our new friend, all right? Sophocles, almost seemingly a lot smarter than a creature would generally be, actively rolls its eyes and then begins slurping up this meat. He kind of turns over.
Gobble.
Gobble, gobble. I'm sure you have heard of some of these new beasts coming from the outer realms. Is that correct?
More than heard, actually. But yes.
More than heard.
I suppose I've seen a few, I've been around. But yes, I suppose I'm being hired for something.
Well, not yet. Unlike the rest of my friends, as he, like, pulls over the binder and the paper and flips through it, unlike the rest of them, I don't care about this. And he tears it in half, and as the pages fall, you notice that there is information about you, about some of your details when you were on the eastern seaboard, some of the jobs you did, There's specifically one note that you see that was about 12 years ago that you only see the word AWOL. And he says, I do not care about this. We do not necessarily know exactly what you've been doing over the past few years, so I would rather do my own testing. The Professor Likus Eranan of the Academy of Dusk has decided to put on a little crew. You may have heard of him looking for adventurers over the past few months. Now is the olive branch for you, but I have my own questions before I actually extend it. Secure, I've heard and read, as well as I may not be fond of reading, a fair few things about you.
Yes.
And as that happens, Sophocles, tries to nip at one of your fingers, as you're pouring the jar, and he just kind of smacks it and throws it back in his cloak. Are you, or would you consider yourself, a man of honor? And as he says that, you notice that his eyes kind of glow. Just slightly. And as he peers at you, you kind of look up just slightly from your work. You're not much of a liar in the first place, but you don't even know if you can lie to this man.
For the past few seconds of what he said and what he's done after ripping all that up, this man intrigues me more than ever. I again put down the vial. Who are you?
I have already said, my name is Pax Olamus.
No. No. I'm gonna look down at the papers on my floor. You seem to know quite a bit about me, Pax. And that information is not simple to find. If you have all this information, you know that I am not exactly loved by all of those who reside in Reyvadin. And because of that, I have, yes, been avoiding seeking any and all relations with the company that you are talking about. I presume that you have found a way around that, and if not, you have not heard of what I have done, but I assume that you have. So, you have specifically cleared a way for me to join this company, this party of people, whatever we are, whatever we're doing. So you're already assuming that I'm going to say yes.
I asked a question first. Would you consider yourself a man of honor?
He already showed that he doesn't like answering questions extremely directly. But yes, as he's pressed him again, and there is some kind of magical shenanigans going on, he does find himself just slipping up. Yes, quite immediately after he asks.
Alright, I will answer one of your questions now. As you, I would assume, know, any and all deserters from the Githyanki invasion were pardoned 6 years ago. Officially by the king.
True.
So, that is an answer to your question. There is no direct reason why we would not be interested in your skill set. Now, I must ask, why? Why do you believe yourself a man of honor? As he kind of notes down towards the pages, I am not quite certain I see one, so why do you believe yourself to be?
Because of time. I have done many things that are not honorable. And due to this, I would say that I would know more than anyone else what it is like to be dishonorable. I've made it my mission specifically to avoid those things, and I can say that I'm a better man than I was 20 years ago, thank you.
As his eyes kind of flash again, he looks down at you and says, well, that's exciting, isn't it?
I don't like you.
I'm starting to like you. quite specifically, the reason why we are interested is because someone quite close to you is leading this new expedition. How would you like to work with your brother again?
Are you kidding me?
He smiles at that.
Does he know about this?
He has, in his own ways, been keeping slight tabs on your whereabouts as long as you've been in Reyvadin. He has not made contact, as he didn't want to breach any old insecurities, but, to be honest, of the people available, you are one of the better prospects for this. So we decided to reach out, and he seemed excited. At least I assume he did. I was not there when he learned.
That makes sense. I tried to keep very good tabs on him a while back. I stopped. Not recently. That's something he would do. Yeah, I have not seen him in a while. Perhaps he's forgiven me at this point.
Well, in regards to honor, he is no longer honor-bound to send you away, as you have been pardoned. So, with that being said, all in all, as he's kind of sweeping up all the papers, and as he puts them in his fist, they incinerate. He looks back down, and the snake is actively bitten his, underarm, and he pulls it up. Sophocles, at some point, you will have to become better behaved. And you see the eyes kind of float up to him. Mouth opens, and it drops and crawls back onto the table and continues eating the meat there. Well, Sakia. He pulls out a small little card and slides it over. At 6 p.m. this evening, in the tower of the Professor Likus Eranan in the Academy of Dusk, there will be a small gathering of the rest of the recruits. Likely you will know none of them outside of your brother. It will be an interesting reunion, I'm sure. In terms of pay scale, you will be likely paid better in this organization than you ever have before. Dependent upon...
So, that is all well. I must know, and please, this is perhaps the most important thing out of everything, and you may not understand why, and I trust you not to ask questions. The things we are killing, do they have blood?
Many of them will, yes.
He takes the bounties that he had been collecting and cutting out. He crumples them up in very the same manner that he had crumpled up the contract and papers he had before, and then underneath the stove he burns them. And takes the card.
Alright, well, a few last issues. Well, while the thing you are hunting, we believe, has blood, something you'll find interesting is the blood of its victims have been drained from the bodies. Outside of that, I will also note, Sakia. I was not here during the Githyanki invasion, but I know you believed it was right what you did in the moment. This is a new invasion, arguably more dangerous, as it is uncoordinated and spread throughout the entire continent. Likely through the other continents as well, while we have little to no information on whether that is true. These creatures are very old as I am, if not older, and most of them are quite powerful. This will be what you are known for, if you are able to succeed. A rewriting of what you have done.
That would be comforting for sure. I don't care what the history books say, I care what I am before gods and men.
Well, only a few gods matter in my mind, as he stands up. And kind of stretches, and Sophocles quickly climbs, slithers up his leg, and wraps around his neck. I am not certain I will be able to make the dinner this evening. However, I hope you are able to. I'm sure it will be a grand reunion, and an interesting hunt. I wish I could participate, but I have my own duties to attend to. Sophocles? All right. I bid you adieu. Also, I would try, personally, oregano and rosemary. It will eliminate some of the scent. From your concoction,
tried
that
that.
is.
I've tried that.
You have?
Yes, for 2 years straight, and now I hate rosemary.
That is unfortunate.
On your way out. It's the second man who's the problem. Give an extra glare.
He kind of looks around and sees the orc, who was the second man, and the orc's kind of cowering in a corner as he gets stared down. Pack says, I believe you will do well in this, Sakir. I hope you prove me right. Goodbye. And he just lumbers out, and then comes back and just downs the rest of his mead before setting it down and leaving.
He keeps putting things in, and then looks out the door, sprinkles some rosemary in the pot, and keeps pouring.
So as we leave there, we float again across the city. From the Haltux corridor, if you guys are looking at the stream, which is on the right side, across the Whitestone Towers, still inside the Silver Grove on the western sector of the city, we approach the Silver Grove, which is the ring around the Whitestone Towers, which has a lot of parks and churches, the Azure Sky libraries in that area, the legislation, and like Parliament of the city's there. All of the big important stuff is here in the Silver Grove. And across the town, we peer down at this large floating rock. Yes, floating, with a waterfall coming off the side, no less, in the Silver Grove, specifically the park known as Melor's Quarter. A very well-renowned place ran by druids, who have been magically keeping a variety of different stones and waterfalls just in the sky. Maybe 10, 20, sometimes up to 100 feet in the air. It is seen as one of the natural marvels of the city. And as we're peering down, this stone, even though purely made of rock, has a lot of grass and some trees. And particularly, we noticed, luckily enough, even though it is a very, very sunny day, the one cloud in the sky that seems to be still and unmoving is directly over this stone, keeping it shaded. Very, very lucky, it would seem. As we look around this park, this rock seems to have the area for a few hundred to stand on, but there are only about 60. As we peer to the front and see this elven man kind of on a little stage with an elderly couple and a really young kid off to the side, kind of opening his hands out and seemingly giving some kind of sermon as he is giving his closing remarks. Nate, would you like to describe your character and go over what he's saying right now?
So he looks like, think of a private investigator from like circa 1930s with a leather duster and a wide brim hat, smoking a big fat stogie, but with pointed ears. He's got a slightly olive complected tan with a dirty blonde hair, very, very sparkling, piercing blue eyes, and he's appearing to be finishing up one of his sermons. As you all disperse back out into the community, I want you to remember today's teachings. Kelemvor is just. Kelemvor will aid you in being just in his name. All you must do is pray, and you will be delivered as I was from the grasps of the heathens. He did this so that I may teach you the meaning of justice, may teach the many heathens of this land the meaning of justice as I dispense it in his name. Now go, my brothers and sisters, deliver justice unto the heathens. And as you leave, do not forget to leave your offerings for the Church of Kellenvor with Percy. Through your aid, our church grows and is able to share of Kellenvor's great and just deeds. Depart in the light of the just.
So, as you're finishing this speech, your eye kind of gets drawn to a literally flying man, back out to the left of your congregation. And as he lands on the rock and you finish, and you're giving your closing remarks, he seems to kind of just lean to the side and seems to wait for you to finish before, as you do, Martha and her husband Gerald, the older halfling couple off to the side, Gerald being a three-quarterling, more like, as he's halfling and human. Martha just has this massive tray of cookies that everyone comes and they grab a cookie and they leave, a copper or a silver. A couple of your larger patrons leave a couple gold in this little basket up by the front. As they're all kind of departing, this new figure, who is, about average height for a human, and he does appear human. You can't quite see his ears, but he doesn't seem to have any points to them. He steps over in the purple robes of an archmagi. He steps over and says, "Quite an interesting sermon. I only caught the back half. But I must say, the concept of heathens, I'm curious, who do you consider to be the heathens of this world?"
Well, obviously, the non-Kellenvorians. Particularly the Gith, though. Damn agnostics.
That is fair. The Gith are quite a disturbing race when it comes to the higher powers. However, I must say, I do believe Kellenvor's teachings are quite neutral on those who are not followers of him, generally being fine with the followers of the Raven Queen, even though she is considered a greater deity of his domain.
What of it?
I am merely pointing out the facade in your possible sermon. I feel like we're coming from things from a different perspective. You are Wayne Casaurus Rex, correct?
Yes. Wankosaurus Rex.
Well, all right. We'll have to discuss this at some point. I'm certain we could come to some form of conclusion on the heathenistic societies of this world and who are and aren't heathens. Surely you don't believe Tyr, the god of justice, surely you don't believe his followers are heathens.
No, as long as they follow the rules of justice. They seek justice. They'll be fine.
Oh, well, well, all right. We'll have to have that discussion some other time. As he, through a couple mage hands, floating up, there's a series of papers and a little, dossier that's in front of him that gets flipped through. Well, Wayne, from the Astral Sea, captured by Githyanki, was able to escape, went to the Academy of the Dawn, then was sent to the Academy of Dusk here in Claudian, and is now beginning a cult of Kellenvor in the city of Claudian. You're quite an interesting figure, aren't you?
Church of Kellenvor.
Church. If we're talking about technical definitions, you are still a cult, but you are a church as a conglomerate, so I will allow that. I have an interesting job for you. I know you're a bit of an investigator yourself, a minor adventurer. I was wondering if you would be interested in possibly outreaching a little bit farther, maybe becoming a little bit more of a traveling preacher rather than just here in Reyvadin.
I could be persuaded. What is this job you have in mind?
Well, the organization is known as the Inexorables. They are a crew ran by me, a friend of mine named Pax, along with a few mages of the Academy of Dusk, specifically the Transmutation Professor, the High Transmutation Professor Likus Eranan, and the professor of, I believe it is conjuration, Evathar Iparium. Actually, I apologize. It is divination. I always mix the two up. I'm an evocation archmage myself, so I don't really care about the rest of them. Regardless, it would have you traveling around Reyvadin, all around Reyvadin, all down the spine and out east and west, likely over the next year or so, before possibly even spreading to other nations. Specifically hunting what we have decided to call the Umbral Forces. Surely you've heard about some strange occurrences that have been happening around the Caladrian Empire, new beasts not seen for 14,000 years. Or at least that's how we tote it, even though that is correct, many don't believe it.
Yep.
Well, would you be interested in hunting a few of them?
Would you say I'm bringing these Umbral Forces
To justice? Yes. Many of them, specifically the one that you'd be going to first, has already killed nearly a dozen people. And captured a few and kidnapped at least a half dozen more. So, quite possibly, some extreme divine justice would be entailed in this regard. There may be some more moral quandaries with some of your later hunts, but at least, more than not, justice will be wrought upon your foes.
Wink source at your Rex. Periwinkle, get your ass over here.
Perry just holding this massive sack that he's starting to actually have a bit of a hard time carrying, kind of steps over. Yes, Mr. Rex?
No speaking. We ride. Assume the position.
He holds his head in shame and says,
That's the next day on your penance. Shut up.
He holds the bag out to Gerald and then steps over to the sage and kind of leans forward a little bit.
Good boy. I'm gonna jump on his back. Onward!
So as Wayne, a very, very lithe elven man, jumps onto the back of Percy, a 17-year-old, and begins... Periwinkle. I apologize, Wayne. Periwinkle. And begins... Yes, Jade.
17-year-old what? What is it?
No! It's not... It's not the 17-year-old. It's a half bugbear, half Goliath.
Oh, Perry! I apologize. Periwinkle. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. The penance of writing your... So, Perry...
I wonder why you were writing a 17-year-old.
Perry, the bugbear, who I do believe is above the legal age of consent, at least for his race, steps over...
Shoulder. He's like 40 or 50. He's got a whole family and everything.
Brother, he's dead if he's 40 as a bug. Well, probably not, but he's old as fuck.
Alright, he's at least 25 or 30 then.
Okay. He kind of leans over and you hop on, and his long arms kind of lock around you to, give you a place to sit properly. And Entrati is flabbergasted as he is looking at this. And he's, don't say anything, Parry, but give this to your pastor later in the afternoon. It's a dinner invitation for tonight. But Perry kind of looks over with just a deep, deep sadness and sorrow in his eyes and nods at the wizard and begins walking down the wobbly bridge that goes to the ground. So after that debacle, Entrati makes sure to grab a couple cookies from Martha and thank her for that, and he leaves 5 gold in the little bag. And Entrati then steps off and begins flying away again. And as we do that, we make our way to our last, certainly not least, as across the city, in the Anxious Alamad, the living sector of the city, we see a familiar, dark, ruggedly handsome, middle-aged man, Rikus, as he is walking through the Anxious Alamad. It's not very busy right now. We're still early to mid-morning. At this point, it's about 11 a.m. As you're strutting through, you have some documents of a little bit of information about your mark here, Leopold. I'm sure you have a question for me, Thomas, so go ahead and shoot it.
I was just I stopped by the records keep at the library and gained access to at least the name of the servant.
Okay.
And see if I could have possibly gleaned any more information about the servant as well.
Okay. So the base information about the servant that you would get is specifically her name. I don't know if you have that on hand. I'm pulling it up right now. Yvonne Acheron. And you are able to glean that the Acherons are a human family that have been servants to the Lennoxdon family for approximately 6 generations at this point. And you're almost a little surprised seeing Yvonne here with effectively like the not castaway but walked away child of a noble family. You're a little surprised to see one of their lineage's servants are here in the city just to take care of a single, very young still elf. But as you're kind of thumbing through all this, you step out into the street and you look up and you see a 3-story home that you would probably approximate costing about 8,000 gold. Probably. It's in like a really nice neighborhood. The Anxious Alamide is a very safe place in general. There is no really bad part of Reyvadin. There are some sketchier areas, but there's no real like this is a bad place to live. Living is generally kept very, very safe in Reyvadin. Homes are. But regardless, this is a pretty big home. A very small mansion, but you could still classify it as a mansion. And as you step up to these big double doors, finishing thumbing through your papers.
Yeah, I looking over it, I'm just like, fuck, does he sleep in a new bed every night? Throws parties for his hands, I guess. I don't know. And he walks in.
So as you step up and you take the little nozzle and you tink, 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 about 20 seconds later, the door opens as this young female human, who you assume to be Yvonne, is pulling the door open with some distress. Like, it is a heavy-ass door as she's pulling it open, and she does a small courtesy and then says, "We were not expecting any guests today. If I may have your name and why you are here, I may speak to the master of the house."
Yes. My name is Rikus Eranan Shade Hollow. I come from the... Hey, Zach, it's the what of Dusk?
The Academy of Dusk.
I was sent by the Academy of Dusk. I wish to have a short meeting with the master of this household. Sir Lennoxdon.
Well, all right. I do believe he is not particularly busy this morning. I believe he has plans in the afternoon. However, I will go and discuss with him and bring back some information. As she is, like, struggling to close the door and pushes it and closes it very slowly. You hear very, very quick footsteps as she walks away. Do you say anything as the door is closing?
I figured there would with how many rooms are in this mansion, I figured there'd probably be like a waiting room for guests.
Yes, she does not let Rikus in. She does not like the look of him. So she
Okay.
closes the... He is fairly disheveled. Like, he is not your usual guest. So she closes the door. Quickly, Pitter-Patter just runs up the stairs, and... Leopold! Knocking on the door.
Yeah, I imagine Leopold would probably just be like sitting at the desk in his room, wearing like, I guess a more casual outfit, you might say. It's definitely got like stains on it from like oil and working with his guns, and it's one of those outfits that just has so many stains. It's never going to get clean again. It's evidently like a more comfortable outfit. He's actually sitting at his desk, reading the daily paper, and he's got a cup of black tea on the desk in front of him. But as Yvonne knocks on the door and peeks her head in, Leopold will pull up the newspaper, look over somewhat curiously, and what guest day? I thought Thorvald was supposed to be in for a while.
Yes, he is not supposed to be in for at least a few more hours. However, a man named Rikus Anadeus Shadehollow. He seems like one of your types. Adventurer, he's got a revolver on his hip. He's got some kind of folder in his arms. I would say some sort of investigator. He's got some form of adventuring capabilities. One of your types. Don't bother changing before going down there. I'm gonna have to clean the living room after we let him in regardless.
Fuck.
Well, Yvonne. So Leopold, upon hearing the description, he begins to think for a moment, trying to recall where he's heard the name Rikus. But also upon hearing the fact that he has a revolver, his interest is very keenly piqued. So he will go ahead and tell Yvonne to let him in and tell him I'll be down swiftly. He looks down at the jumpsuit he's wearing, or it's not really a jumpsuit, the work clothes he's wearing, and says, no sense in not freshening up at least a little.
Alright, are there any particular refreshments you would like me to prepare?
He'll look at the cup of tea on his desk and ask, do we have any more of this pot?
Of the black tea? Yes, I may have to reheat it a little bit, but yes.
You can go ahead and bring that out then. At this point, Leopold will go ahead and walk over to his wardrobe and look through and see what might be a good outfit for the day.
Alright, so as she steps down and walks down the stairs very quickly, and then seemingly slows her step right against the door, as your keen ears, Rikus, can hear that, the door unlatches and slowly gets pulled open again. As she again does it.
As she's pulling it open, I just say, Zach, I'm assuming she's pulled it out, opened at least 6 inches or so, and I can see into the house.
Yes, a little bit, yeah.
And he says, "Oh, ma'am, don't bother." And he just his image.
Misty Step?
Yeah, it's not actually Misty Step, but his image just seems to fade and then appear beyond the door as he does use his racial teleport.
As she just kind of
call phasing.
Had begun to open the door. Well, we hadn't permitted you entrance yet. As she pushes the door closed, the 3 inches she got it open, and latches it and says, and you see out in front of you, there's a variety of different sofas and couches. There's a futon, there's a couple solo chairs, and it's all very, very neat, very, very well cleaned, incredibly well cleaned and kept. She says, I will have a pot of black tea and some scones out in a moment. The master of the house will be down to see you in a few minutes.
Pardon, I meant no intrusion, but I know you wouldn't have opened the door again if I wouldn't be let in, so...
Well, Regardless, don't quite make yourself at home. Please try and stay in the living room. I will be back with those scones and tea in just a moment. And she heads off to the kitchen. About a minute later, she comes back with the tea, and I would say a minute after that, you hear the steps coming down the stairs as... Aiden, would you like to describe your character?
Comes down the stairs. He's wearing actually pretty much the same outfit as he was before, except this one doesn't have any stains on it, and he's got it's a fashionable like small cloak over it. It's pretty plain. I imagine they're in like a rather like brown pants, like a neutral green tunic of sorts. But you can tell that it's simple, but still like not quite like designer, Gucci level expensive, but they're definitely quality. As he enters the living room, he'll take a look at Rikus, and actually, I guess one more important thing to mention about Leopold is that he is wearing a belt, and you can see on the belt he does have a bag of holding. He looks at Rikus, and well, he definitely fits the description Yvonne gave. And Leopold will say, "So what do I owe the pleasure from a visit from somebody from the Academy of the Dusk?"
He reaches out to shake your hand and says, "Oh, I was just sent here as a representative. I don't necessarily associate with the Academy of Dusk, but I've worked with them quite often."
Well, very well then. If the Academy of Dusk sent you, surely they must have something to say.
Well, they do actually. Leopold, how have you been doing? I see that age has been treating you much more fairly than I have.
Well, life has been much the same, although there have been some interesting quarries posted for my hunting, but rather unfortunately, they're a bit outside of the domain of my readings. I always like to, read up on something whenever I go hunted, but so some of these things don't even have a single text about them. I'm rather curious, but how have you been doing, Rikus?
Well, just adjusting to life after service is always a tricky bit. But 5 years of adventuring, that's not bad. You've come a long way in such a short time.
Well,
Although your family's had other things to say about it, at least you got to keep this nice mansion for yourself.
I'm sorry,
And,
what was the comment you'd made? I kind of talked over it, so I didn't hear it.
Oh, you're fine. I said, 5 years of adventuring. That's, you've come quite a long ways in such a short time. Although your family has had other things to say about it, at least you got to keep this nice little household.
Upon the mention of his family, Leopold will simply scoff and say, "Let's leave Zadash and Zadash, unless that's what the Academy of the Dusk is come to ask me about."
Hardly, actually. I just happened to pick up that knowledge on the walk over here. Anyways, I have other news that might interest you. You see, 1 week ago, I had a group of 5 others of my caliber, and they all perished. Or should I say 3 perished and 2 are missing.
I imagine Leopold was sipping a cup of tea, and you can see him not quite choke on the tea, but definitely pause, set it down, and mutter some quick condolences.
Either way, we're putting together a new team. I'm sure you've heard of the Umbral Forces that have been piling in.
Is that what they're calling them over the Academy of the Dusk?
Yeah, quite a unique name, especially for one of my lineage. This new team needs to be a little bit sharper, and, well, the ones who employ me believe you to be a good fit. We'll
You
be
can
traveling.
see that. I'll let you finish your comment.
Yeah, we'll be traveling quite a bit around the country, and I'm sure it'll give you some chances to sharpen your skills.
At the mention of him being chosen for being sharper, you can see Leopold is definitely sort of preened a bit at the comment. He is happy to have his ego stroked a little bit, and he says, "Well, well, I'm glad to be a man of such high caliber that the Academy of Dusk is after me. Also, sorry if you can hear my roommate playing League in the background.
Nope.
Or no, I think he's still playing Minecraft.
No problem.
Either way. Where was I? Yes, he will say that, well, I could definitely be amenable to such an offer. I don't have any current bounties that I was lining up.
Well, if you're interested, this afternoon, you're invited to a dinner over at the Academy of Dusk. I'm sure they are serving some of your favorite platters.
Well, I suppose the only way I can see is if I'm there myself.
Now, one question though. As I mentioned before, I did a little bit of research, but you're a skilled craftsman.
That I am.
What are the things you're working on currently?
I'm so incredibly glad you asked. He will actually, kind of gesture to the revolver on your hip. He will reach into the bag of holding and he'll pull out one that looks somewhat similar. And remind me, Zach, both of our characters are supplied by the same dwarf, Thorvald, correct?
Thorvald does supply some of his work. However, he does get most of his materials from a different designer he has bought from Theobald in the past.
Okay.
Theobald also has supplied the
place where he gets
military-
most of his stuff.
the military storehouse as well.
Yeah. So, pulling out the revolver, this is the latest work that I've been working on. I'm actually going to have Theobald come into town later this afternoon, and I guess have him help me work out a few of the kinks. Leopold will go ahead and bring the revolver close to you and show it. It's got 3 cylinders, but they're like very large cylinders to the point where it's like they're about the same size as a regular 6-cylinder gun, 6-cylinder revolver. And of course, if you have any experience with Leopold's in adventures before, most of them are mixing magic and guns to do some sort of effect. He'll go and say that. This one, I've got most of the mechanism down. I'm just working on the ammunition, which is why I need Theobald's help. With the ammunition, it's a way of, I guess, increasing the bang of a regular firebolt, you might say. With the stresses it can put on the gun, it can only really hold 3 shots. Any more than that, and you risk the stability of the weapon, and if you put it under too much stress, could potentially shatter even. The magic can just be that powerful. What do you think?
Kind of he's kind of scanning the firearm in front of him. He gestures his hand and says, "May I?"
Of course.
And he begins to hold it, turn to the side, aim, kind of flick the pistol around, get the feel of it, and
Yeah, it is like
says-
definitely on the bulkier side for a revolver.
I will say, for the size and caliber of such a handgun, it has remarkable balance. As he kind of spins it around his hand, like a cowboy almost, and proceeds to clasp it and put it back in your hands. Well, I guess I can't not return the favor, and he unholsters his pistol and hands it to you.
Leopold will begin to do much the same, although he appears to be more interested in the I guess mechanism aspect of the gun. You know, exactly how the cocking hammer works, the spin on the cylinders in the revolver.
Yeah.
Stuff like
When
that.
you look at the revolver, you'll notice a worn out but still present symbol of forgot the Lord's name, but one of the Lord's military crests. And then on the revolver's grip, you'll see the etching of a rune.
Upon noticing the worn out seal, Leopold will look at it for a bit, just for a moment, and it's not quite recognition that you see in his eyes, although he definitely does recognize it. It's some other emotion that he swiftly kind of brushes by, but upon noticing the rune, he'll definitely speak up and inquire exactly what is it this does.
Let's just say if someone tries to draw on me, I draw first.
And rune of speed. Yeah, you can see he kind of looks away and already sort of has the gears turning in his head as to exactly how he might be able to do something with that. And he, turns away and sort of begins to kind of map out some stuff with his hands, and he is still carrying the gun, but he very quickly realizes that, oh, I'm still carrying this gun, I should probably return it. And then he will turn back around to face you, Rikus, and hand you the weapon and said, well, it is very finely crafted. So, what time did you say the meeting would be this evening?
Zach, what's the
6 p.m.
Zach, what's
Thomas.
It's
6
been
p.m.
said so many times.
I've recited it like 50 times at this point.
I didn't take that note. Okay, sorry. It'll be at 6 p.m. I hope that does not interfere with your meetings, your other meetings.
Well, perhaps Thievold would stick around and have a drink with me, but any important business I imagine I could get done before then. I'm sure Thievold will understand.
He will. Thievold's a easy to get along with dwarf.
True. Well, I wish you the best then, and I shall see you at 6.
Well, good to know that I have your invitation. Your accepted invitation. It's like. Anyways, I will make my departure.
As you say that, Yvonne steps back into the room and gets ahead of you and opens the door. And as you step through and exit, she closes it behind you, latches, puts her ear up against the door for a few moments to listen your steps walk away. and then steps back into the living room and says, Leopold, I think you are perfect for each other. When's the wedding?
If only mother and father would approve of such a scandalous affair. Getting married to a commoner.
It would...
He is very, very plainly over dramatic.
Yes.
Yeah.
It would be a truly magnificent event to see their faces, if they even came. Now, your sister, on the other hand, might have some jokes to say about it. Regardless, I just got word from Theovold. Letter came in from the back. I do believe there was also a letter from someone back home. I believe you can save that for this evening, though. You've got some preparations before Theovold comes.
Of course. I still have some kinks to work out, some of the weaponry. A few final calculations I need to do to probably have everything in working order. But I shall get to it, and just try not to go overboard, deep cleaning every single place he stepped foot.
Oh,
He wasn't that dirty.
As you say that, she kind of points at the rug where there's just a massive scuff mark where mud was just left caked on. She says, It will be likely an hour before I am done. I will have lunch and tea for you at 12:30, and that is about the time Theovold should arrive, so I will make enough for 3. You're welcome to go back to your office now. Yes, Thomas?
Okay. As I've walking past the gate of the mansion, Rikus kind of just lets his shoulders down, shakes his head, and kind of rubs his eyebrows. Fuck, I love. It's like I hate talking to rich kids. And then he keeps walking.
Okay, so as we have finished with everyone's base introduction, we are pushing 10. Are we wanting to get afternoon stuff done and end as we are about to do the dinner, or are we wanting to cut off here?
I guess, how much stuff would need to get done in the afternoon?
Your conversation with Theovold, the research with Linen, and then possibly a small thing with each of the rest of them. Jade seems good.
I'm down to go a little bit later. I'd prefer not to. Yeah, I'd also say
we will
10:30
not go.
works for me.
We will not go later than 10:30.
I just need to go to the restroom.
Okay,
So,
go to the restroom real quick.
I'll be back.
So we will actually go first then to Secure. Is there anything in particular you would like to take care of this afternoon?
Nothing in particular. There's plenty of things that he is doing, but nothing that needs to be said. He's just putting things away, cleaning up, getting ready.
Putting things away, cleaning up, getting ready.
In fact, he probably arrives early.
One thing you will note is when you go to pay your table's bill, it seems to have already been paid by PAX.
And I hate that guy.
Daddy Pax.
All right, so our Jothdath, Kelemvor worshipper, all the Batman memes of Jothdath for Gotham. I'm just seeing Kelemvor say that.
Justice reigns from above.
It's a mix of Joel Osteen and a Helldiver.
Are you sure it's more like Joel Osteen and like an Astartes
Warhammer 40k night.
Warhammer 40k? Blood for the Blood God.
Skulls for the Skull Throne! So, Wayne Rex, doth thou have anything you would like to participate this afternoon that you would believe to be of note?
For the Emperor.
Not in particular, just riding Periwinkle around?
That he's probably working on some sermons.
I'm just imagining...
Probably,
Go ahead, Nate.
do what?
Go ahead.
I was gonna say he's probably just working on some sermons and chilling.
I'm just imagining, like, your notepad is... you're on, like, Justice sermon number 47 at this point. Like, you've done the same sermon, just slightly altered, like, so many times at this point.
Yep,
Amazing.
that's pretty much it.
Okay,
Yeah.
so with that, I'm going to ask the last person, who I don't think is going to have a ton to do this afternoon. That way we can get into the two thicker ones. Thomas, Rikus. As you walk out, what do you intend on doing? You want to go visit baby, or go back to the school?
I will stop by baby, grab a couple of my other things, like my backpack and my rifle. In case we have to go anywhere rapidly.
Okay, so you stop by what's known as the Caltrops shed. It's a very, very popular stable. It's where they're keeping baby. You notice actually right beside baby that there are 7 other horses that have all been placed beside him, and seemingly a carriage set aside. That as you approach, one of the stable hands kind of says, "I believe you're a little bit early, or are you just here to groom your horse?"
I'm just here to see my horse.
Oh, all right. Well, your benefactor has already purchased the rest of these for travels around Calandria for you and your group, apparently. We were not quite ready for you to come, which is why I got so flustered when you approached. If you're just here to groom baby, that is fine. He's already been groomed this morning, but he could always use a little bit more as an old folk.
I appreciate the recommendation, and you don't have to worry, it's just me.
All right, that is appreciated. You have a good evening. Afternoon, I guess. As he kind of nods to you.
The lad needs more sleep, doesn't he, baby? And he goes around and opens up his chest. Not the chest of the horse, but like the chest of the small wagon that baby would usually pull, and starts rummaging through bibs and bobs and bits and packing his bag a little bit, and off he goes.
All right. So
and he's gonna probably stop by the record keepers again, check up on a couple of the other names that were mentioned, reminding himself of some of the other people of names that he recognized, and then he'll stop by his house for a quick...
His apartment.
Yeah, sorry, my apartment, and grab some quick food for lunch.
All right. So, with a short afternoon, we are now going to go to our local researcher. Back at the bottom of the Academy of Dusk. So, as you begin flipping through these books, I would like you to make me a trio of rolls. Now, I would like you to do it on your character sheet, as that is simplest and we will all be able to see it. So, I want you to make me an investigation check, an arcana check, and a religion check.
First rolls, let's go.
First rolls, and likely only rolls
Investigation.
of this session.
Ah, jeez.
So you gotta make them good, my guy.
Gosh, I forget. How do I do?
You literally just click the number
roll.
beside the skill check. So if it says investigation,
I see.
click the number, and it'll roll
We
it.
all
These
get
rolls will dictate
investigation.
the rest of our rolls through the campaign.
Oy. Nine.
Not a great start. Arcana and religion as well.
Arcana. Or...
That's
24.
better.
Fuck.
Wow.
And religion. Hitting with a 17.
All right. So that hits you with a total of 50, which was actually the baseline I was hoping you would make with the 3 checks. So, I am going to dump a fair bit of information about the details of the first crime scene, the second assault, and some other stuff. This will be gone over again during the dinner for the rest of your characters. That's when you will learn it. However, an extensive amount will be done right now, and some of that information will be brought by Zach's character to the dinner. Okay. So
Aliens. It was aliens.
it was aliens. So researching the case, you throughout the next about 7 hours, 7 to 8 hours before you have to get up and get ready to go upstairs, you read through about 1,200 pages of material. You are an incredibly fast reader. You may not be the smartest man ever done, but your intelligence is very, very specified. It's on very specific things, and this is one of them. Researching. So you, as you're reading through, you find that the celestial marking is a old tongue celestial concept of the word defile. And you're able to find that and like cross-reference it throughout a couple of the books. You pulled some of your own books to find mentions of it. One of them, the relations of that symbol, the celestial symbol, relates specifically to Asmodeus, as he being the defiler. The second of which is found referring to demonic creatures, that being demons, not devils, but fiendish demon creatures as a whole. And lastly, you find that symbol related to a story in the book that Ernest gave you. Now, this book, you've read through it before. Generally, it is perceived not as, like, lore or history, but far more exaggerated stories written by paladins and clerics to make angels look better than demons. However, looking through it, there's a story where a man is controlled by a fallen angel and seems to have been turned into some kind of beast. The details of the beast are not necessarily described as the like climax where the beast is actually seen in its true form, as it has the capability to shapeshift. The beast, when it's seen in its true form, is actually like torn from the book. Like the story is not finished. So reading through this, you learn it can have multiple disguises that it can take, as it's assumed to have appeared multiple times throughout the story under disguises of characters we already know. Going into the original case, we have the 3 people who were attacked. Technically 4 people who were attacked: 2 city guards, a woman and her son. Her son, who is a teenage boy. All of whom humans, and one of the guards seems to have just been kidnapped. And his name is specified, unlike everyone else who is not, where his name is Claudium. Claudium. Claudium.
Okay.
And the rest of whom were killed, deflated of blood, and lungs consumed, mark on the back of the neck. Relating that to the story, those do match. However, the draining of the blood does not, in any way, shape, or form. That is never mentioned in the story, so you're almost curious on whether that is the correct creature of myth that you are trying to figure out at this point. You also note of one thing in the story that seems a little overdramatic, but is a note there regardless, is that the claws of this creature, and its bite in particular, are known to like quickly infect and cause terrible hives that will sometimes even grow into like just straight up boils, or if not holes in the skin of the creature, and be incredibly irritating. Obviously, very irritating for the creature who has been marked in this regard. And it's this creature's particular name in the story, let me pull this up, is known as a Naztharoon. And you would know of the concept of a Naztharoon being like a very, very, very distant demonic cousin of the Rakshasa. But you don't think the Naztharoon exist. Like, you've never actually seen proof of it. They are merely mentioned in a few stories, just like mythologies of any number of different deities talking about demons they've defeated. It's always questioned whether those actually existed. And these boils, which as a medicine man you'd be a little bit interested in, They cause obviously extreme discomfort and infect incredibly easily if like cut or popped at all. And specifically in the story, it is denoted that no one knows how to cure them.
Ooh, perfect.
So as you're kind of reading through all of this,
Maggot time.
the few pieces of information that you would say that you glean is the concept of that symbol seems to only relate to one demonic creature that you're not even certain exists, called a Naztharoon. As always, Naztharoon are weaker to, radiant damage of sort, and unlike their far cousin, the Naztharoon take a more well, actually, you don't know because the story doesn't get to that point, what kind of form they take. But it is said that holy water, as always, and words of radiance are able to repel them in some minor regards, or at least weaken them. But it is especially spoken that, unlike their cousin, the Rakshasa, who, when dealt piercing damage by good-natured creatures, the Naztharoon is generally more resilient to piercing and bludgeoning damage, but dependent upon the belief system and alignment of the creature attacking it, it is believed that slashing damage would do more. Along with the general radiant damage as it being a demon, doing a little bit more damage.
Yeah. Interesting.
Okay. Are there any particular questions that you have?
Let's see. Not too much. After like reading through, like looking through all this material, how much time would I have left?
After reading through, you might have an hour or two.
Okay. So once I sort of compile, like I basically compile all these notes and just start stuffing it in my like bag, which the bag I took with me when I left my monastery originally. I start stuffing it in there, all my notes, all my materials, and as soon as that's done, I pick up the dossier of like other information, because I've only been looking at the research material, like the cases and reading the books. I figured this is probably an important meeting. I probably should read up on the other people that will be showing up, right? It might be a bit important.
As you reach forward, the dossier actually does not contain a lot of information about other people. It contains more information, particularly about like the types of pay and what benefits will be given, expectations. It's more like a contract to sign than it is information on the others.
Okay. Well, in that case, after seeing that, it's like, gosh, of course they don't give me any. Do you think I'm antisocial? Oh, whatever. I guess, whatever. Preparations, that's right. Materials. And I'll start walking. I'll start walking off, upstairs, trying to access some sort of, I guess. Oh, does this academy have like a material, like not armor? What's it called? Like not a requisition. Yeah.
A requisition room, effectively.
Yeah, a requisition room, because I'd like to start prepping potential materials I may need, because it's like incurable disease. That sounds like I could try a lot of fun stuff. So I kind of want to get like a base. Yeah, I want to get like a general collection of materials that I could foresee being useful for the types of injuries I'm seeing.
Okay, so you go up into the tower of the Professor Harriet Lightborn, the evocation professor, which healing spells, at least in D&D 5th edition, are evocation spells. However, they have all been changed to abjuration spells in the 2024 handbook. I don't know if anybody else knew that yet. I don't get why. I get that abjuration's the protective magics, but
We can say that in lore it's just like the council of the archmages decided to switch over, right?
yeah.
Look, in the next edition, they're all going to be illusion spells. I don't know what
Yeah.
to tell you.
Yeah, and also all of the healing spells got like doubled effectively. Like you're doubling all
nice.
dice with the 2024 healing spells, which you guys are welcome
Nice.
to take the 2024 Player's Handbook spells. Now, I'm not super well versed in all of that yet, so
Do
when
you have it?
everyone has access to it. It's the baseline now. You have to activate the Legacy, which is the 2014 D&D 5th edition Player's Handbook spells. All 2014 5th edition content is considered legacy content now on D&D Beyond. So, regardless, we can talk about that later. So you go and you grab a whole bunch of, your essentials, you grab a box of leeches, a whole bunch of stuff, and you begin preparing it. You, pack a bag and get everything ready, and then kind of, tidy yourself up a little bit before this evening.
Yeah, and
So-
that's how I spend. Oh, yeah,
and essentials. Are there any essential oils in there?
Absolutely. There are multiple.
Obviously.
Yeah, the oils that you cook and burn and then pour over people's skin.
Yeah. The entire time I'm just talking with Professor Harriet and saying okay, so cases report this, so we could probably, that sort of those sorts of conversations are happening for the remaining hour.
Unlike almost everyone else in this tower, the reason why you and Harriet get along is when you get on these rants, he joins you, whereas most people try to avoid them. So you guys begin talking about that, and probably spend way too much time on that.
I will be late.
Yeah. So,
Only a bit, but
So, moving back to the mini mansion, in a little bit of preparation as you hear the bell for lunch, and Yvonne has prepared some sandwiches and a side and some more of that black tea along with a pitcher of water and stuff. She also has a bottle of mead and some more harder things for your dwarven friend who will be coming along. As you're stepping down the stairs, you hear the heavy pitter-patter, more like clops of a pair of, outside of a better frame to say, giant goats that are pulling the cart of your dear friend Theovold. As he kind of steps off the cart, leaving it on the street, and kind of slowly waddles his way up to the front door, and right as he's about to knock, Yvonne, seemingly much stronger than she was earlier, pulls the door open fairly quickly, unlike for the disheveled man, and Theovold nods and steps on in. He kind of holds his arms out, comes up and wraps around just above your waist as his shorter self. That trip was terrible. Oh Lord, the spine was terrible today. It was very rough.
Well, if you stayed in Reyvadin, you wouldn't have to travel the spine so much. Come on in, we've got lunch.
Yes, I see, and mead. Yvonne, thank you very much. She kind of nods, seemingly far more excited for this guest than your previous. She also sits down at one of the tables with her, at one of the couches with her own lunch, and kind of just sits in on the conversation as Theovold just opens the little thing, not even pouring the cup that Yvonne set there for him, just immediately drinking from it, pours a little bit, puts it over on your side of the table, and then looks over, grabs the cup of tea in front of his place, and grimacing, drinks it all down, pours it, puts it in front of Yvonne, says, "Well, friends, how we doing? It's been a little bit longer. It's been about 2 weeks longer than my usual trip, but I'm here. I've got some goodies."
Oh, I do love goodies, but I don't know how long we'll be able to stay and chat into the night. Had a curious fellow come by. I believe you know one Likus Eranan.
Rikus. Rikus Anadeus. Oh, also goes by Shade Hollow, I believe.
That'd be
Yeah.
the one.
Yeah, interesting guy. I haven't done much personal work with him. He hasn't bought much from me personally, but there's a bits and bobs shop that I sell stuff to that he works with. I used to supply for, I believe, his division in the military. Interesting fellow. I believe he's. I don't. How much do you know about the guy before I say anything?
Well, I don't know that much about it, but evidently he's working with the Academy of the Dusk. Invited me to it's a meeting you might say that they have going on tonight at 6.
Huh.
I was planning on attending, so
I-
we might not be able to have too much festivities into the night, depending on how long that goes on for. But I'm sure we can get into some sort of fun.
Yeah, some sort of trouble. Well, I'll let you know. Rikus, interesting fellow. I'd say a bit more of the quiet brooding type. He's a fairly well-known investigator in Reyvadin. He was in the military for, I believe, a total of 10 years with under the banner of Valkenton. I believe he was moved at some point to Albert Team 9, which was a joint task force between the Galadrian and Avarian empires. By the way, this is all hearsay from military dudes, so I can't say how actually valid it is. But some kind of joint task force between Avarian and the Galadrian Empire, post-Githyanki invasion, which he fought in. I have no clue what happened there. It was a more secretive locale that people aren't allowed to talk about, even those who do know about it that have spoken to me. Interesting fellow for sure. Very good at his job, at least. Probably as good as with a gun as you are, honestly.
Well, you were showing off quite the beautiful piece, but he did say he was looking for people of a bit sharper caliber. Apparently, he already had one group of people for this job, and they couldn't quite cut it, and he's the only one of them left.
Damn, that's rough. But he's probably had a lot of loss in his squads and such. Did he say how long ago it was?
I don't actually believe he did, but he seemed to imply it was rather recent.
Well, that's rough. Hopefully you don't follow the same fate. If you do, I'll have to kill you.
Well, I think you'd have to apply me away from the Grim Reaper first, but you might be able to do the job, Thorvald. You're about as stubborn as they come.
It's my dwarven heritage. The halfling side says that I should be more happy, but why? Either way, so a couple of the goodies. As he brings a couple things out, he brings a cylinder to a revolver, and he says, I'm fairly certain you have a piece this could work into. It's something I'm prototyping, so I ain't giving it to you yet. Cost will probably be around 500 gold since you're a friend. What this cylinder does is it's able to actually hold 8 rounds. And effectively, what these, there's one cylinder in this, which is, he kind of shows you how the mechanism works, and one of the cylinders is actively separated or skipped over on its turn unless actively signaled to be used. And he says, so what this does is it doesn't actually fire a regular bullet. It's these thin wire, like iron wrought wire, all wrapped inside. And when it's fired out at approximately 30 feet, it'll span out and collapse in on itself 10 feet later. It's iron for capturing certain kinds of creatures. If you got any fae or demons, they have a harder time getting out of iron than they do out of, your general rope or steel. Along with that, it's more than strong enough. You can't cut through it with blades. I've tried with any non-magical blade, that is. So for mundane captures or captures of the supernatural creatures, could certainly be a useful addition. I don't know how much of that you're looking into right now.
Well, I can't say exactly how much. job with the Academy of Dusk will involve that, but could very well be useful. I'll probably have to get a bit more information at the dinner tonight.
All right, and then I've made a little bit of progress on our other concept that we started talking about. He pulls out a series of barrels and stocks and handles and says, you know, we were discussing about a weapon that is effectively, you can take it apart and then put it back together with other pieces for other utilizations very, very quickly.
Modular design, yeah.
Modular design, yeah. I made a little bit of progress on it. We should discuss it tonight when we have a little bit more time. Outside of this, I saw this this pair of chicks, okay, at a tavern a little earlier, okay. I think, look, I know you're a little antisocial, and he looks towards Yvonne. How have you not gotten him a wife yet? Anyway, like, he's loaded. How... We should go, okay? Just try and have a little bit of fun. I know you got a party tonight. We can't get you drunk or anything, but...
Well, there is one more thing I wanted to ask you about. The ammunition, as he pulls out the 3-cylinder revolver he'd mentioned earlier, which, from a outer game perspective, this is how I'm going to cast the Scorching Ray spell that I have.
Okay.
Yeah, you know, the vast majority of my spells are just guns.
He kind of takes it very carefully, pops the cylinder open, looks at it. Oh, this one of your infusions or something like that?
Something like it. I'm wondering if might be able to get some ammunition to pack a bit more punch.
Pack a bit more punch. He kind of sets out a series of cylinders. He's got a dozen of them. Just these little, you know, casings. And says, bit of a magical enhancement. I believe I get what you're going for with this weapon. These, I charge you 20 gold apiece. You know, that's effectively half off. What they should do, they'll pack quite a bit more punch on each cylinder. And, you know, 20 gold apiece. I've got 12 of them, 240. That gets you 4 full rounds of real extra damage.
I just want to clarify, I wasn't actually talking about any necessarily mechanical benefits for this. I was just viewing it as more of a roleplay thing.
I know. I am viewing a mechanical benefit for it right now.
Okay, I wanted to make sure we're on the same page.
Okay. Effectively, what these will do if you purchase them is for each one of the Scorching Rays, you'll be able to actually add your intelligence modifier, your spellcasting modifier, to each of the rolls. So each of them would be 2d6 plus 4.
In that case, Leopold will pick one of them up, you know, look at them, inspect them, you know, see how they fit into his gun, and you want to go ahead and repeat the offer for me?
The offer, so they were 20 gold apiece. There's 12 of them, so 240 total. He says, "I'll make it 225 for a friend."
I was thinking about more so giving them buying a few and giving them a little test run.
All right.
This beauty, don't even have a name for her yet. She's not quite a finished work yet. I don't want to buy all of these and then need to rework the entire thing.
Yeah, that's understandable. I mean, shoots fires. So, Flamin' Waffer, Scorcher.
I'll have to think.
The hot pisser.
Anyway, I'll take 3 of your cylinders.
All right, 3 of them. We'll just call it even 50. Like I said, most of this stuff is prototypes. I was surprised this would even work with that utter amalgamation you got there.
I'm just managing the inventory on my end real quick.
Well, you want to go to that tavern? Look, if you won't come with me, I'll just have Yvonne come with me. Yvonne kind of rolls her eyes. Theobald, you know I have to clean after you leave, right? Ah, you can do that later tonight, alright? He'll be gone most of the evening. They both kind of look at you.
Ah, well, I couldn't let Yvonne go and have all the fun with you, Theobald. Well, we'll go out for a bit. I might have a few light alcohols, and maybe you can try and introduce me to some of these hot chicks, as you put it.
Ah, that's my boy. Alright, well, I'm sure y'all gotta freshen up a little bit. I don't, because they attract to my natural musk. Anyway, I'll be waiting out in the street. And he goes to the door, opens it, and closes it behind him. And as the door closes, we are going to close on this session, as we will begin next week as everyone is pulling up to this dinner dash. Sad we weren't able to get there tonight. I blame it on Jade. So we'll get to have the dinner dash tomorrow. We'll all get to meet and truly start interacting with each other. We got to see a little bit of each character. Hopefully you guys had fun with it, even though this was a little parsed out. I hope the situations were intriguing enough to see these new characters.
Fun.
I can't wait to get shot in the back of the head by 2 party members.
I can't wait to listen to every single session.
I can't wait for Nate to write his bugbear next session.
Hey. I'm trying to think of a way to specify not DM Zach.
It's fine, one of us will respond.
Don't worry, I can shoot you in the back of the head 3 times because I also have a force ballista that I can shoot you with.
I can take it.
Well, all right. It is 10:30.
So many loads right in the back of his head.
I don't like that. So
Just right, you're getting shot first.
we're gonna call it here. Most of the time, I'm gonna try and run sessions 7:30 to 10. That's my target goal. And then 10:30 is the latest we will ever go. If we're able to start earlier and people are here at 7:15, we'll start then. But yeah. So again, hope you guys enjoyed. Y'all are good to go. I will end the recording.